So please welcome Allie Elman to the show. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm happy to be here.
It's so fun to meet you and have learned about you before I got on this Zoom. And you're from Texas, and Richard's from Texas, and I think that's where you live in South Lake. That's where he's from. But um, and then just to find out that you went to USD, where Paige goes, and it's fun to connect like that. But I look at your journey, and I know that. So when I see something like a disease or pain or a trauma or an accident, I always know there's a higher purpose for that, right? There's always
Mm-hmm.
a reason it's going to bring you to your purpose. And we
100%.
all have this like story that we've created as a soul to come down and create this life and learn our lessons. So when I was listening to you and learning and going down your rabbit hole, which I loved, and seeing where you are now in your 40s, right?
I'm 44.
44. I have two girls like me, but when I look at your pictures on Instagram, it just brings my heart to go, oh, that age, those ages are just precious. And here I am with a 16 and an 18-year-old now, and I feel like it was just yesterday that they were your girls' ages. So I was just in my memory lane looking at your pictures. So I love that. And it just a beautiful family. But so now your story, you had ulcerative colitis, and I love to go to Louise Hay and heal your life and why,
Mhm.
what that is. Because do you study her?
I don't, but I've studied some other stuff around the stomach and the gut. And
Okay.
certainly I know that's where I hold everything there. And it's where I hold my trauma. And some interesting things happened after my surgery. We'll talk about that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But when I look at the meaning of that, because I always look if someone has something,
Hmm.
that's when I heard about you and I got introduced. That was the first thing I did was what was the meaning? What does Louise Hay put on the dis-ease of
Hmm.
ulcerative colitis? There's, perfectionist. Um,
100%.
it could, I mean, there's a whole list I could tell you, but it was like started seeing the list, and then I have a dear, dear friend that I have known my whole life that has that, and it was all those things: the narcissist husband, the perfectionist, anxiety, but all there was like six things, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally her. And then I was learning about you, and then this perfectionist, like looking at your Instagram, first of all, it's perfect, right? No wonder she created this thing in her body from being this perfectionist. But let's go back to maybe how you were raised and where do you feel that stemmed from, and what your soul's journey got you to say, okay, now I have this dis-ease, and
Hmm.
let's go from there.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned all those things. I've definitely been told that by I've had some readings and I've had some intuitives tell me all of those things, and it's pretty textbook. I from a young age at 5, I remember having stomach issues. Anytime there was anything happening in our home that felt out of order or stressful, it would go straight to my stomach. And I think what happened over time is it just progressed. But as a child, I had these characteristics of sort of like everything in order, everything perfect. I think it was my way of safety. There's some interesting data out there too to show that things get passed on not just through genetics but through trauma. I have a Jewish heritage, so it's kind of an interesting thing to look at as well. A lot of female Jewish women happen to have ulcerative colitis. I started to go down that path too and understand what could that be. Was there this feeling of not being safe at one point that got passed on in our soul somehow? It's possible because I certainly came onto this planet with it is my little gift because it teaches me all the time. I have to now pay attention to this thing. If I feel my stomach tightening up, it is a direct correlation of something going on in my life. It's very quick. So it's like a constant feedback loop that I'm getting. Um, it was meant for me, right? So I think your question was like how did this manifest, or if there was, I think it's a combination of things. It's your, if you want to call it, your soul, your purpose. I came here to learn from this thing. I've always learned the hard way. This is my way. This is
Mhm.
I've always learned through experience, never through, I love other people's stories and I love reading, but I've never learned that way. It's always been through usually pretty hard challenges. But that is just what I'm drawn to. And this was a big one, for me to learn from. Um, and I think that there are continually like aspects of it that will always be something I'm learning from, but it all came to a head for me when I ended up in the hospital with something called intussusception. This is something adults very rarely have. It's something that happens usually in children 2 and under. So
Mm.
they were very surprised. They were surprised too because they said, you should be in a lot of pain, and I have a high pain tolerance. And I said, no, I am in a lot of pain. And when they saw what was going on in my stomach, they informed me that I was septic. And because I'd waited so long to go to the hospital, again, something that I've learned from, listening to your body, it was screaming at me. A lot of us just ignore those signals and continue on. Um, I was so septic at that point that they weren't sure if I was going to make it out of the surgery or if I would recover. So it was, for someone who's always felt pretty bold and like, I've got this, I put
Mhm.
myself in all kinds of precarious situations and lived in New York and was all over the place. I've traveled the world. This was the first time I thought to myself, I'm not sure I'm going to wake up from this one.
Mm.
And that was huge. I mean, to actually have that feeling and say, okay, I've got 2 girls. I remember I said to my surgeon, hey, I have to wake up from this. I have 2 girls. I said that to the anesthesiologist as well. And they said, we've got you. And I said, okay. But like, I remember going under thinking, I'm not sure on this one.
Mm.
That was a huge, uh, what can I call it? I mean, uh, wouldn't no, I wouldn't call it a wake up call, but it was like a revelation when I opened my eyes, and the sunrise that I saw that day, I will never forget, out of the
Mm.
window of that hospital room. And many of us go through traumatic events, unfortunately, that have to do, with different diseases or ailments. This was a big one, and I wasn't sure I was coming out of it. So when I got to see that sunrise, I knew that I had a new path, that not just that I had a new path, that path was always there, that it was time for me to turn towards it and to just dive into this new, endeavor that I'm in now. And I felt severely, like deeply sad because I know so many people are suffering out there, with different autoimmune disorders, cancers, diseases. We know where we're at health wise across the planet. And I felt that like on a deep, deep level. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to help, but I'm going to help and I'm going to do something. And so it started me on this new journey, and something that was really interesting. You talk about breadcrumbs. The plaque outside of my hospital door said, um, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. And I was like, heard. When I get out of this place, I am going to do what I can to help in any way possible and to add value and to be, feel that I'm living that purpose. So
Mhm.
long answer to your question.
No, but so before you like you're so I'm listening to your habits and everything, and we'll get into that now, what you've learned and what you're sharing with the world. But before that, were you healthy? Did you, when you were in college at USD, were you exercising and eating right? I mean, Paige is eating this food at the in the cafeteria, and she's like, "Mom, I just feel inflammation." She knows how to
Yeah.
eat right, so she's like,
Mhm.
"I don't know what the oils are," but those growing up years and not knowing, the education now with even like now with this new government, it's going to start opening the doors, I think, for people to even more see what we've been,
Yeah,
what we didn't know we were doing wrong. But were you
absolutely.
aware when you were
Yeah.
growing up? Or did your mom feed you Fruit Loops and
No, my mom was actually she was kind of like a little more, we'll call it hippy dippy, but she would take us to health food stores. I was always into kind of being more aware of what I was putting in my body. I became vegan at a young age. That didn't last for too long, but I was like vegan for 4 years. Um, I've always paid attention to it, but when I was in college, I mean, college was college. And although the like type A Aries, I'm gonna get good grades, part of me was there. The other side of that extreme is I'm gonna party and I'm gonna do what I want. And so I did. So I mean, although that laid another layer of probably complication into my already weak gut, um, I then found myself in New York working crazy hours and doing the same. So always living this life of extremes.
Mhm.
That is just a good way to describe me. It's like it was always this all or nothing and
Right.
work hard, play hard. And again, like when I think about being gutted, which I was, it's sort of like our gut is, we have all these like sayings, like it's a punch in the gut, or, uh,
Listen to your gut.
listen to your gut. And it really is like the core of everything for us. We know this on many levels scientifically. We know this in Kundalini. We know this a lot, right? How you breathe in and out of your gut, so many things. And I did not take good care. I did not take good enough care of it. So it was always extreme, going hard this way or going hard this way. So it was a cleanse for like 10 days and then sure, I'm going to go out and party. Um, yeah, so that absolutely did not help. And then after living in New York for 7 years and having a great time, um, I did have times I was trying to discover what was going on in my stomach and in my lower intestines. I had my first colonoscopy at age 17. That's really, really
Oh,
good.
wow.
So I was trying, but the problem was nobody could give me real answers. And I don't know if at that point they weren't testing microscopically and they didn't see that I had some chronic inflammation because they were looking, do I see something? They didn't see anything. Well, I was feeling those things, but they couldn't see it.
Right.
Again, I tried in my 20s in New York, and no guidance either. So this is where it's like I'm very frustrated for myself and many others. When you go to seek an answer from a doctor, well, they're trained to look at one thing. And if they don't see that one thing, they don't really have a lot of answers for you. So then I go, okay, I go about my business. And I didn't really there's a lot of information now, but back then there really wasn't. There wasn't guidance on much. When I hit 30, I started doing more research. I started going to a naturopathic doctor, did cleanses and colonics, and it did clean things up for a bit, but it didn't resolve fully. And then, of course, I jumped into motherhood, growing businesses, and pushing and pushing and pushing myself. And so that inflammation just kept growing. And by the time I really could focus on it, it was a bit too late. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you wake up and see the sunrise and you're like, okay, I'm going to pivot right now and live this life. What do,
Mhm.
what starts to inspire you? What do you do? Go get a book, go listen to somebody, go take a class.
I did all of it, all of those things. I signed up to become a certified health coach. I think even from the hospital bed, I had been looking at a program before just because I wanted to learn more for myself. Wasn't sure if I was going to go down that path of being a coach or not at that time, but I from the hospital bed, I was in there for like 6 days. So I was like, I'm going to sign up right now. And I did. I listened to, and I always had kind of listened to podcasts, but this was different because for several reasons. First of all, it really did feel like a gift to be still here. Um, and I didn't want to waste that. There's like this weird feeling that happens when you realize, like, at any moment we could go.
Right.
And, you can't take anything for granted. Another thing that happened was I realized that in addition to some of the food I was eating, which I want to be clear, I don't eat fast food. I never really have. But when you start to realize people with gut issues and motility issues and they can't break things down in the stomach, what seems like a healthy salad is actually really not that great for your gut. It's having a
Mhm.
really hard time breaking those things down. So I had to like look at food, what healthy food was differently.
Right.
I also had to look at not what I was eating, not just what I was eating, but how I was eating it. Was I like in a state of, like tension and rushing out the door and okay, I have a green juice, great, but am I juggling it down on my way somewhere? Because again, the body wants to be in rest and digest when it's eating. It wants to feel calm. And so I really started to look at everything in a totally different way. I was like, yeah, you could check a box and say she's eating all these things that are good for you. And a lot of us do this. We don't realize we're not actually chewing our food. We're not relaxing while we're eating. We're stressed. So your stomach is like this. You haven't even given your body enough time to realize, oh, it's time for me to fire up those digestive enzymes and juices that will help move the food through.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at that too. And then the other thing I had to look at was, why do I hold all this stuff in my stomach? Why? Because some people it's their back. Some people have joint issues. Some people have migraines. Never those things for me. Always my stomach. So I had to look at that too and kind of face certain things. And the removal of a part of my body, and this is something I haven't really talked about much actually, that particular 13 inches of my small intestines, for whatever reason, it unblocked certain things that I was holding inside.
Huh.
And I had a lot of very hard conversations with people in my life after that. Because I
Oh,
just didn't.
explain that. Explain that. What do you mean?
So I didn't want to continue to just swallow stuff. And if something was kind of in my intuition or something was bothering me, I didn't want to just brush it aside and go, oh, it's okay. So I had a lot of hard conversations with my husband. We had a really up and down year because of that. And some things came to the surface that needed to. I put up very strong boundaries with certain people in my family that I kind of felt like I was carrying the weight of things that really weren't my responsibility. I,
Mm-hmm.
I stopped. I really stopped a lot of that. And I very, very consciously said, I'm not going to do that anymore. It was weird. It was like I was unblocked and I was
Hmm.
able to do that. And that is also a huge part of this healing process. And I hate it when things sound, I also don't like the word hate. I
Me either.
dislike.
That's so funny. I catch myself too. I'm like, why did I say that?
I dislike things that sound too woo woo because a lot of people do shy away from that, but they have to understand there is so much more energetically to our body than just what traditional science can explain. We
Right.
know this, like, and I feel it. I felt a huge shift after this, and one that is hard to really explain unless you've kind of felt it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had like this blockage removed. And
Hmm.
it did shift a lot of things for me.
Huh. Well, when you look at the chakras, the colitis is in your fourth chakra.
Hmm.
And then I'm thinking you studied Reiki too, and transcendental
I
meditation and all
Kundalini, a lot of
Kundalini.
Kundalini breath work, moving the energy up and down.
I'm
Absolutely.
I
Hmm.
love breath work. I'm like addicted to it every morning. But explain like so you start, you know, when you say woo woo, because that's me and that's everyone listening to this podcast.
Oh, and I
So
love it.
we're all woo woo. That's my path. So when you start to have these hard conversations and speaking your truth and understanding that you have the power to have the boundaries and, empowering yourself and like, when I think of, because my stomach too is my place. So when you're talking, I'm getting that because I know that if I don't stand my ground or if you know, I just let things roll through. I know it's still in there. If I don't clear it, it's going to keep building and building. And I'm like, and I know the feeling that you're explaining, so I
Yeah.
relate to that. But when I'm picking this up. So I don't feel like when you say, the where you're going now, like now I feel like you're moving into the woo woo. Because before you were kind of like maybe not as looking at it as a Louise Haywood, but now at this transition of your walk into this new era of your life, understanding that it was for you, now you're seeing the energetic play in it. You're looking deeper into the meaning and what has been, what has been your self-talk. What have you been, what are your limiting beliefs? That all of that plays such a huge part in our health and everything that we talk. I mean, I'm the word police. I can't, if I hear like the word hate, right? Like I don't say
Yeah.
that either, but
Yeah.
of course I've said it and I go, oh shoot, I don't even say
Yes.
that word, but I
Yep.
am like the word police, so I understand how powerful words that we speak. I mean, I've raised my girls, which I'm sure you've raised your girls in the same way. Like we speak to ourselves in our body, these cells that are absorbing every vibration of our words. It's everything in our body is listening to what's going on in our mind and our words,
Absolutely.
right? So let's take me to where you go into the woo woo.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've always kind of been a little more woo-woo. But but uh but it's one thing to experience certain things sort of as an observer and understand it. And it's another thing to really embody it. And I didn't have any choice. So I had to kind of embody certain things. Um, I have always been really hard on myself as a perfectionist, as a somewhat recovered perfectionist. I've always desired to have a certain body or look a certain way. And I never really fully accepted where I was. There was a huge shift of acceptance of myself in all ways and how I started to talk to myself. That really totally shifted. And at 44, I love myself more than I ever have, in totality. And uh, every day is a little bit different, but I still love myself a lot. Like I couldn't say that before at all.
Hmm.
And a lot of my friends said to me, you always seem so confident. I never saw that in you. But internally, I did not feel that. After this experience, that definitely shifted. I've read many books, and I love Joe Dispenza, so
Me too.
did a lot of those meditations, and just started speaking to myself a lot. And I thought, well, first of all, would I ever talk to my daughter this way, the way I'm
Right.
talking to myself? Absolutely not. And yes, I teach them the same thing. So I'm like, why can't I
Hmm.
learn to do this for myself? And so that definitely shifted. And also there's I had this inner talk of, um, it's a control thing, which really just equals this is how I feel safe. But it was always, if I don't handle it all, it's not going to get done or it won't
Mhm.
get done right. I have to do it all. It's always me. So if you continually say, I have to do it all, you're not open to anybody or anything, the universe, God, taking some of that off of your plate and
Mhm.
opening the doors for you. As soon as I started to go, like, I'm open to that. Like, I trust because I couldn't really feel like I could trust much before. And then I think I came in with that. I think that's something that was just in there for whatever reason, whatever my soul went through before. I just can't trust. I started to trust a lot more and go, you know what? Like, I'm open. Let's see what's going to happen. I don't have to handle all this. In fact, the less, the less that I feel like I am controlling, the better. I get to just step into it and keep
Right.
stepping into it and pay attention to the things that are coming towards me and go, does this feel like something for me or not? So
Right.
that was big too.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can relate to you so much. And it's so funny because, um, when you talk about control, because we're moms and, I'm at the end of the childhood. And it's even letting go of Paige going to college was, understanding, wow, like that's a tough thing to go through and see that it's time for her to go. But yeah, she needs to go. She needs to, but to know that as who I am and I relate to you, like this, like I control, it's like, and I know that's in my stomach. And
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to delegate, I have these retreats and I just had one last weekend and I had a couple girls that volunteered because it was part of where we had it. Richard's company. It was like these girls that are amazing college. They went to USD too.
Oh,
Um,
wow. How fun.
and so they came and said, I'll just help you in return for not paying. And so, I sat there and go, oh, how do I ask them to help me? Like it was so hard. And then once I started like, okay, can you make the sign? Do you think you could order lunch? They were like, they couldn't wait to help me. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it was like this free feeling of understanding that control that no one can do it, but I'm going to do it all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I get that. And then once you learn that you can delegate and you could free your whole, and it's okay if you don't do it all. But I relate to
Yes.
that. So that's probably where my stomach issues come from. But anyway, okay. So I was listening to, well, I want to get to this documentary for sure. But before we go there, because that video, even the beginning of what you're doing and your vision of what I see you doing is amazing. Is the routine, like your morning routine, the things that, so my morning routine is so like I get up at the same time every day. I drink my water with my lemon and my salt. I have um all my herbs, the cayenne, the ginger, the turmeric. I mean, you should see my mixture, the apple cider vinegar. Like, I mean, it's like
I
the
bet
girls
I'd
are
love
like,
it.
Mom, that is so disgusting. But I know how good it is. My beets, and then my red cabbage. So all the
Love
things
it.
that you love, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I must be like intuitively knowing that it's helping my little stomach here. But explain kind of your go-tos, the dates. Always say, do a date a day. I have
Yeah.
my things of dates. You got to have a date a day. So
Yeah.
go to your like main things that are super important to you that you've found that are like there's no way you're not going to do it.
Totally. Um, well, I got curious about food, very curious about food, and not just like what we're told is good for us, but what my body was craving. And then I would look up what the nutrients were and had a sense of, okay, so my body really needs some of this fiber, or my body is really craving selenium, etc. Well, for my morning routine, I'm like you. I'm very regimented about it for a couple of reasons. The word regiment like immediately makes me feel like I have to do it, but
Right.
I get to do it. So
Yes.
I love it. And previously for an example, I would get up and I would probably immediately have coffee. My husband makes amazing coffee. He does pour overs every day. And so I'm lucky in that it's like really good single origin coffee. And we used to own coffee shops, so that's another story. But instead of waking up and just grabbing caffeine, I get up and I drink my water out of a copper glass. It's something in Ayurveda that they do a lot. They believe in the benefits of copper. And just one glass is not going to hurt you, and supposedly will help cleanse out any parasites too. Um, but I just like it because it reminds me to drink my cup of water immediately. And then I get up, I stretch, and I will do dry brush my whole body. And I do this to wake it up and also get my lymphatic system going. And then I'll put some oil and I'll do a little bit like of a massage on my belly because I'm like kind of acknowledging both like myself and my body and my belly. It's time to wake up. And when you do that right off the bat, you're signaling that you're there to take care of your body that day. I think a lot of us, myself included, you have so many things to do that you just get up and go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do this, it signals like I'm more in that calm state and I'm setting the intention that I'm going to take care of myself any way I can that day. And I've already done something to do that. I have after that hot water and lemon. And I don't drink coffee really at all anymore.
Mm.
I have a big respect for what caffeine is now. It is a very powerful drug that we're mostly addicted to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, but it what used to be used in rituals. So we have to, when I took a step back and really looked at all these things that we put on ourselves, in ourselves, I just had a mindset shift around what am I doing here? And people use mindfulness a lot. It's just really means just paying attention to. So paying attention to what I was doing. So after my lemon water, because I know I'm not going to drink coffee to try to eliminate. It's very important to eliminate first thing in the morning. If you can, the rest of the day is going to be a lot better. So I trained my body to be in this routine without caffeine or anything harsh. And then I allow myself to have a matcha with like things that it's all homemade matcha, meaning that the milk I put in, I make myself, I know what's in it. And that's like my treat. But I don't have that for a while. I really want my body to wake up first, and everything is a lot more intentional. So these are new patterns and routines that I started to put in place. Um, I the benefits of ghee for the belly are huge. So I have some sort of ghee throughout the day on something. Usually it's potatoes because they're really easy for my gut to digest, and everybody's different, but purple potatoes, sweet potatoes, and ghee, like that's heaven to me. Black mineral sea salt, lots of benefits from the minerals in that low sodium, high mineral content, which your body needs. You'll find that you'll always see dates and Brazil nuts in my kitchen. I do that in the morning as well. I don't eat a ton in the morning, but I'll have like 2 or 3 dates and 2 or 3 Brazil nuts. So I've got my fiber and healthy sugar, which actually ends up balancing your sugar levels, so you're not heading into a crash. And then the selenium from the Brazil nuts really helps with my brain function, and it's a good fat. So I mean, I could go on and on about these things, but every single one of them also is easier on my particular gut and helps me function better. And it's simple. That's the other thing. I had so many crazy cleanses and protocols that I was doing for years, feeling like that was going to help me. But what happened was it was so extreme that you can't sustain it. All the
Right.
things I put into practice every day are daily habits. It's lifestyle. It's not okay, I'll do this until it's like,
Right.
this is my lifestyle now.
Right. Yeah, I'm
And
the same
so,
way. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it comes from our personality, like you know, we're just routine, and I'm so disciplined. And when I say disciplined or regimen, I mean it more like I love to. And if it's like if the girls wake up and I'm sleeping, they would be like, "What?
Yeah.
Where am I? What planet have I moved to, Mom?" It's they're
Yeah.
so used to me ready and happy and done my routine and my vibrations high, and that's
Mhm.
how I set the tone for the energy of the family. And I love doing that, and I take the dogs on a walk that raises my vibration. I'm listening to something that raises my vibration.
Yeah.
And it's a discipline. Like people would look at me like, "Oh, do you ever not?" I said, "No, I love it." Like I don't look at it like that. It's just part of my life, right? Like that's our lifestyle. Like, and I love it. You couldn't change a thing. But so my question is, I think now, like with social media and all the things that we can look up, we could go crazy. Like I can add, my husband's now like sending me all these videos on every health thing. He's gotten into this. He wakes up now with his, lemon and cayenne and all this mixture and the apple cider vinegar. And I go, "Do you look forward to that?" He's like, "No." I said, "Yeah, because I'm watching you." But he's seeing like, yeah, like we're in our mid 50s. I think he's seeing someone had just passed away that was in his office, and it kind of woke, little things like that where you realize, like, yeah, we don't know if tomorrow what time is our time to be done here. But
No.
to have the awareness, but there's so much that I mean, I was like, oh, I need to get that. I just ordered apricot seeds because it was something that I was reading about. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes it gets so much that I look in our cabinet, and what I add into my day, it's like, okay, I need to get down there after this and start doing my drops and my, whatever else. But how do you stop?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know, like, um, because I know that you're the same way. Like you're always looking at the next thing that's coming to, to make you healthier.
Yeah. And I mean, we are bombarded with marketing all day long in every way. And I think that the way I look at supplements and the way that I look at those extra things, whether it's IV drips, etc., for most of us, that's like the extra 8 to 5% that we're going to get like as an edge. Even red light therapy, which is wonderful. All of those gadgets and things are pretty cool. But if you don't have the foundation of a rhythm of your day down, the foundation of the foods that your body can easily digest and assimilate, um, your body can't really heal fully. And it can't be in the right balance. So it's great if you're taking more and more vitamins and more supplements, but I actually stopped taking a lot of things. I cleared out most of my stuff, and I thought, okay, first of all, whatever I'm doing has to be simple, sustainable, and enjoyable every day. And so that goes for movement. I move my body every day. It goes for how if I'm going to meditate, it has to be easy and enjoyable and simple, and I can do it every day,
Right.
because that's where we as humans get overwhelmed and confused. Like, okay, I'll just add another thing in and I'll do this and this. But we actually haven't taken a step back and said, wait a second, am I getting up in the morning and do I have a routine that supports me that doesn't cost any money really? And
Right.
do I, what am I thinking? What are my thoughts? And am I going to bed at the same time? Am I abusing alcohol? Um, we a lot of times want to like put band-aids on top of stuff without stripping back first and getting those foundations down, because that's a life and that's a lifestyle. And we're always like, as the Western world and Americans, it's not our fault. We're kind of like babies. We're like looking at all these other cultures and saying, wow, like look at how the blue zone people are living a really long time. They're not taking supplements. They're not,
Right.
they're
Exactly.
not going, okay, I heard a new protocol on Huberman. Like that's awesome because we're all trying to learn. they're living a lifestyle that they enjoy. They have community, they have repetition. Well, almost all of them have something they do almost every day. It's just a part of their life. It's integrated. So that's what I look to the most, is like maybe to not get so caught up in what's next. I think it's more about those little habits. And look, I'm lucky enough that I can say this because I'm not suffering from another disease that I have to do something specific for. Although infusions are a part of ulcerative colitis if you need it. But day to day, that's what's going to bring you longevity, enjoyment, mental clarity, everything. And
Right.
simplicity is key. So if we overwhelm ourselves, I think it's really hard to keep up with those things. And it's
Right.
expensive for the everyday person to
Right.
do that.
So let's go to this something that sparked your mind to go to India and
Yeah.
start creating this documentary.
Yeah.
One
So
day I woke
from
up and said,
yes.
I'm going to go to India and
Well, in
film a
addition,
documentary.
yeah, I did it. So in addition to signing up to be a health coach, I'm an overachiever. But in addition,
Really?
but I'm in the flow of it now and I'm enjoying it. It's not a punishment. That's something else that shifted. So, and it doesn't define who I am and my value. It's just something I get to do. That's huge. But from the hospital bed, going back to that moment, I thought, you know what? I want to explore different ways that people view health, different lifestyles, and I want to go to these places. And Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic practices have always called to me because they are so ancient. So I believe that there's wisdom. Like we're getting information all the time over here, but we have very little wisdom over here. And
Mhm.
I was just called towards things that have more wisdom. They do also have a lot of scientific backing as well. And we're learning more and more about that too. But so I thought to myself, I want to go to these places. I need to learn for myself how to heal myself better. Why don't I not just do this for me? Why don't I film it? And that's where the documentary idea came from. What we're doing now is trying to turn it into a full docu-series. But having had no experience in the film world, put together a team, a director who has a lot of experience, and some producers who have been around for a really long time. And I pitched them, and they said, "This is great. Let's do it." Never been in front of
Yeah.
the camera. Never had done any of this, but I did a lot of meditation to be able to put my ego aside, and I like wasn't there for me. I was there hopefully for others to be on the journey with me and to be curious, because I'm not here to tell anybody what to do or how to live. I want to hopefully connect through shared experience and get other people's stories. And that's what I'm doing with this documentary. And India was the first stop. It was very eye-opening. It broke my heart wide open. I feel very connected to that place. It's a very special place. And I hope to go back, but I learned a lot about Ayurvedic practices, and that'll be part of the documentary that's coming out here in the next year. But we will go to other places. But the idea is that, for me anyway, when I watch some of these travel shows or I watch some of these health shows, I think, well, that's great, but I can't do that, or I can't go here. I can't fly to Germany and go to this whatever clinic. So I want it to be something you can watch and apply. So everything that I do, there will be okay, back at home, here's what I took from this trip, and here's how I'm applying it in simple ways. So you get to see that as well. So it doesn't feel inaccessible. I think that feeling good in our bodies and health in general should be accessible to everybody. It should not just be for those who can afford it. So I'm trying to do that as well, is to show here's how you can, and again, Ayurvedic is really about rhythms and routines.
Hmm.
They've been talking about walking forever, and how important that is. Waking up at sunrise, going to bed at a specific time every day. We don't need to pay anyone for that, you know?
Right.
But that's why it's not as sexy to market, right? So that is just one place that I've explored and will be exploring others. And I hope to be showing through my curiosity and experience, because I'm learning as I go, different ways of looking at the world too, because perspective is also health. A
Right.
lot of us lose perspective, and many people in India have nothing, and they're far happier and centered than a lot of people I know in the States. So that was a
Hmm.
big takeaway from being there too, and an unexpected one.
Huh, neat. So I was watching the video, and so now that I understand that you put the team together and you've gone on an airplane and flew there, and and I know the lesson. So when you are filming that with these people and you're asking them like you're asking them these questions about their life and the one
Mhm,
woman self-love and it made you cry, and then you're thinking, it's so hard for a mom to like be focused on herself. And I related to that. And but explain what your take, like when you're in India, and why India first, and what did you take from that? Like what were the main things? Like I see the markets with the spices and the thing, I'm thinking,
mhm.
oh my gosh, I would love to go there and see how all their food and how healthy they are.
Yeah, so they struggle like we do with a lot of different health issues, but um, they have an understanding that we lack. Uh, Now, I say this as a generalization. A lot of people in India have a much bigger understanding of how to use turmeric, what kinds of turmeric to use for different things. We over here get marketed a lot of stuff. So we're like, oh, turmeric latte, it's great for us. Well, if you want to use it medicinally, you use it a little bit differently. So we talk about that. But what happened in each place that I visited? So I went to the spice market to learn about spices, and what I really learned about was community and what it takes there to run a very complex, very old market, and the people in it, and like what they put into it and how hard they work. So each thing I did, I came in from a perspective of, I want to understand this for health. And I was sort of surprised at what I learned.
Hmm.
I went and cooked with someone who taught me about traditional Indian food, which always has like some form of probiotic in it. It's a balanced meal, it has like four things that they talk about. And I thought we were going to talk more about food, and we did, but I got to talking to her more, and I asked her what health means, and she told me this whole story about her dad and how her dad taught her it's a lot of it is being happy with what you have.
Hmm.
So he has one watch and that's all he wants. They gave him a watch for his birthday and he said, I don't need another watch. And I know it sounds silly, but like that's another layer. I thought, gosh, we keep thinking we need more and more and more. So it's sort of being content with what we have. That was
Hmm.
another lesson learned. My Kundalini teacher, you mentioned what she said. I was thinking I'm going to learn more about breath work, which I did. But again, she said, caring for yourself and putting yourself first is most important. As a mother, especially, I don't even, that feels like wrong. Like, how can
Right.
I do that? It feels really, to allow for that feels strange. So I think that what I discovered just in the India portion of this was that there's so many layers to this. It's consciousness, um it's community, it's us being more self-aware of like we are all connected. We're over here uh taking turmeric as we had no idea turmeric's been used there for a long time, and here we are going into like coffee shop and getting a turmeric latte. Well, that did come from India and some Ayurvedic practices. We're all connected and we get influenced in different ways. So I came away with like I thought I was going to learn certain things, which I did, but I learned so many other things that were
Huh.
really unexpected. So my perspective shifted quite drastically after that
Wow.
trip.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So as we close, my question is coming to me now is after you get home from India and you
Hmm.
have your husband and your two girls, how do you come back with that all that learning and perspective and integrate that into your family? Into, do you tell your husband, like, how does that work with integration?
The integration piece is what takes time, and you can't, it's like when someone in your family or a friend comes back and tries to tell you about all the things that
Right.
they've seen and done. You can't fully understand. You can appreciate it, but so some of the things that I've done is to be more intentional about little things that we should all be grateful for our home. So in India, I really appreciated in a lot of places, very humble places, they put out water and fresh flowers and some candles to really bless the home and to just, it's like a gratitude thing. So showing the girls that, look, we have a home and we should be grateful for it. That's one of the things that I brought back for them. And they could see it and they go, oh, that's pretty. And they like that, right? Really cooking with them and explaining spices is something that I started to do more, and realizing that as the matriarch of the family, that's my job, is to teach them these things. This is what this spice is. This is what this does, and to make it more of a family thing. Because a lot of the times, and it's not our fault, we're all like doing our own thing. And I thought, okay, I've got to integrate this more. And this is a lot more common in India as well. Um, Although they're losing it too, so they're trying to reintegrate. Um, so with my entire family, just teaching them about, cooking in a certain way or thinking about food in a certain way. What's the components on the plate? And just being the gratitude piece is huge. And until my girls actually see India, it's really hard for me to explain to them, uh,
Hmm.
certain things that they will never understand until they go. So I would like to bring them there. But the integration is, man, I came back very grateful. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I've tried to really infuse, is how lucky we are and to be grateful for everything we have. I mean, I purged like even more. I like to purge a lot. When we got back, I said, we have too much stuff. We can't be grateful for all these things. Let somebody else be grateful for some of
Hmm.
the things we have. So we've done a lot of that. And in fact, it's felt really, really good to just strip back, get back to simple, and get back to being grateful for what we have. That was a big
Yeah.
one from India.
Oh, I love that. And I'm a grateful teacher. The girls have had gratitude journals their whole life. And, um, you know, and I see it now. So what came to me when you were saying that is you're planting seeds to these little minds that you don't know it's really working. But once they get to my girl's age, you're going to say, it worked. Like I look at Paige at 18 going to college. And you don't know while you're you in your, those little sweet girls' minds that you're teaching, you think, oh, geez, are they caring? Do they listen? Is it going through their one ear and out the other? Like, are they rolling their eyes? Oh, mom, what are you going to tell me? All the things, but it's just so amazing. And it's like they do what you do, not what you say. So
Yeah.
when you know that you're present with who you are and what you're doing and you're intentional, they see that and that's who they become. And it's where I'm at now in my life as a mom, watching that. It's like the fruit of your labor, like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look what happened. Like, it's just so, I'm all about intentional parenting. And I was an older mom. I didn't have my girls till 37 and 40. So I had all my, you know, before time to really get like really good about what I was going to be doing before I had
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
But, when I think of how, what you're doing, what you see your purpose is and what you want to show the world and teach your children. And and what they're going to do with what you teach them. It just keeps going and you're breaking a cycle and it's like all the things that this dis-ease did for you to be able to cultivate this new, beautiful vision that you have. It's just like to see the vision and to do it, to call the producer I mean, that alone right there was like, that's amazing, you know? But to give yourself that credit of like, look at that, look what I'm doing, and look where I get to go to, discover more things to bring back and share with the world and make this world healthy again, right? We're coming back to the health part and
I hope
it's all the
so.
basics, It's
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, I just love your
No,
story.
I just want to, one final thought to share, is that anyone out there listening who has a dream or something that keeps tapping them on the shoulder to do, I have no business doing what I'm doing. Most people would say like it takes a long time to break into any entertainment world, and I'm not done. It's still a process, but it gets me excited to do this project every day. And I've been the person who's spearheaded it and pushed forward and asked questions. But if you don't ever start, you're never going to do it. Just start. If there's
Right.
something that you're passionate about that lights you up, go for it. I don't know where this journey is going to take me, but I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so if there's something you feel like you should do it, just do
Say
it.
yes.
Just say yes. Just
Yeah,
go for it.
I know. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. That
Yeah.
resonates with what I always say because it's like if that little thought in your mind comes in, it's for a reason.
Hmm.
And if you just ignore it, you never would have had this documentary series starting, like you would have just said, oh, that one thought or another, it's like that thought it's a oneness field, right? Someone else is going to take that and go.
100%.
And then
Yeah.
you'd be like, shoot, she's doing what I wanted to do, but I never did anything about it.
Yeah, it was just I got the drop in and then I took action and then I continued to follow up with more and more action and allow and allow and allow action allow. And that's kind of been the process. So and that's I guess life in general. If you get into more of that action and allow instead of action, action, action too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It tends to work better. And I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
I'm learning as
That's
I go
good.
about all the things. So I hope that if anyone's curious about the journey, they can come along with me. Because I am just seeing everything as well through the beginner's mindset.
Yeah, I love it. Tell everybody how to find you and
Yeah, I've got my Instagram is Alexandria's Pursuit, and that's Alexandria's underscore pursuit. And you can go to my website, which is alexandriaspursuit.com. You'll see some options for coaching there. I've got a team of great coaches to refer you to if I'm pretty busy, which I am at the moment. We'll be coming out with some products as well, and they're food products, not supplements. So keep an eye out for that. If you go and sign up for the newsletter on my website, you'll be the first to know about these things coming out that are easy to digest and assimilate and simple. So those are the best ways to follow along. And then you'll see I have a YouTube channel as well, which is Alexandria's Pursuit, and I will be dropping some new stuff in there too.
oh, I love it. It was so
Yeah.
fun to meet you and l-
Yes.
learn
Me
everything
too.
about you. Thank
Yeah,
you,
it's been a
Allie.
pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm excited to watch the journey that you get to unfold.
Thank you. I'm excited to be able to share it.
Thank you.